Hey, it's Coach Reeves. Hey, today I'm here to help you get ready for test 6.1, okay? So when we work these problems, we're gonna get into parabolas. We're gonna have to find the vertex, the focus, the axis of symmetry, the directrix, and something that's gonna be on the test, it's a little bit new, is you need to find the distance between the focus and the directrix. From the vertex to the focus is P. From the vertex to the directrix is P. So that total distance is going to be 2P. Got it? All right, so let's get started on some of this stuff. To find all this stuff, we're going to need to have vertex form. I need to convert this or complete the square to convert this to vertex form. All right, remember how we do this. We're going to save this x equals to the very end, okay? And we're going to complete the square. We're going to put our equal sign and we're going to move the 111 to the other side. So I'm looking at negative 3y squared plus 36y plus blank equals 111 plus blank. Okay? Factor away the negative 3. Y squared minus 12y plus blank equals 111 plus blank. Keep the 3 coming down. Remember now, if you factor, you're going to have to bounce. Okay? So keep the negative 3. We're going to take half of negative 12. Half of a negative 12 is negative 6. We're going to square the 6 and get 36. But we need to bounce. We're going to go negative 3 times 36 is 108. But it's a negative 108. So 111 minus 108 leaves us with 3. We move the 3 back over. We're going to go minus 3, minus 3. Here comes my x equals negative 3 y minus 6 squared minus 3. There is vertex form. So if I want to find the vertex, be careful. Let's change colors real quick, okay? If I want to find the vertex, it's going to open up left and right, so be careful how you discover your vertex, but we're going to say it's going to be negative 3, positive 6. So we go to negative 3, positive 6 is we're right here. This opens left and right, but this is going to be a negative, so it's going to open up to the left. Okay? So we're going to discover that we're going to have an axis of symmetry. There is our axis of symmetry, and it is a line that crosses the y-axis at 6. Okay? So let's find our focus. To find our focus, we're going to go to the vertex, and we're going to have to move to the left. To find our directions, we're going to move to the right. And since we're moving left and right, we're going to make an adjustment to our x value. Our x value is negative 3, so we're going to have to come in and we're going to have to go to the left a little bit, and we're going to have to go to the right a little bit. How much do we move? You move the amount, the distance is called P. And how do you find that P distance? You're going to have to find out how far it is from the vertex. So we're going to say P equals 1 over 4 times my A value. That's how you determine your P value. In this case, my A value is negative 3, but distance is always positive, so we can just make that a positive 3. So we're going to substitute a 3 for the A, and we're going to find out that P equals 1 over 12. So I need to go to the left, because my focus, let me make sure this is small enough real quick. Yes, my focus is going to be inside the curve. My directrix is going to be outside the parabola or the curve. Okay? I have to go 1/12 to the left, and since I'm going to the left, I'm going to subtract. I'm going to say negative 3 minus 1/12. I'm going to get a common denominator. I'm going to multiply the bottom times 3. I'm going to multiply, by 12, multiply the bottom times 12, and I'm going to multiply the top times 12. That's going to give me negative 36 over 12 minus 1 over 12. That's going to end up being negative 37 over 12. My focus, the focus will be located at negative 37 over 12, comma 6. Somewhere right in here, 1/12. To find your directrix, we have to go the other way. Since we're going to the right, we are going to add 1/12. So we have negative 3 plus 1/12. Same thing, multiply the bottom times 12, and that'll give you a 12. Multiply the top times 12, and you have negative 36, but this time it's plus 1, and that's going to give you negative 35 over 12. This is my directrix, and the directrix is a line. In this case, this line crosses the x-axis, so we write it as x equals. There's my directrix. Okay? Now, remember what I told you we were going to have to find? We want to find the distance between the focus and the directrix. Okay? Well, how are we going to do this? Well, look what we said. We said we were going to go to 1/12 to find the focus. We're going to go 1/12 to find the directrix. 1/12, let me move this just a little bit. 1/12 to the left plus 1/12 to the right is a total of 2/12, which is 1/6. That would be the distance. 1/6 will be the distance from the focus to the directrix. Okay? All right, let's keep going. All right, we're going to start writing some equations. To write the equations, we're going to ask you to have 3 things. All right, first of all, you're going to need to know the vertex. You need to know your A value, and you need to know if that A value is positive or negative. Those are the 3 things we have to have. All right, so right here, I do know which way we open. So that's going to help me. It tells me if it's going to be positive or negative, or left or right, or up or down. I mean, that helps out a lot. This says open it up and down, so it's going to be y equals, we're going to say A, we don't know our A value. We're going to start out with x, and then we're going to substitute in our vertex. And we're going to say minus 8, parentheses squared, plus 8. So that's a good start. We're going to pass through this point, so all we have to do is substitute in our x and our y value. And then we can find our A value, and we would be done. Okay? So y is 0 equals, we don't know A, x is 10 minus 8 squared plus 8. We are going to move the 8 to the other side, and we're going to get negative 8 equals A. 10 minus 8 is 2. 2 squared is 4. We're going to divide by 4. We're going to divide by 4. And we're going to find out that negative 2 is our A value. So all we really need to do is come back up and substitute a negative 2 for our A value. And then we would be done. Not too bad. Okay? All right, let's keep going. Let's try another problem. This situation, they're going to give us the vertex and the focus. All right, so we know the vertex, but we need to determine which way we're going to open, left or right or up and down. We said if you looked at it It's the variable that is changing will tell you how to start your equation. So the x values are changing, so that means my equation needs to start out as x equals. So it's x equals, we're going to say a, we're going to start with the y inside, and then we're going to substitute our vertex. And we're going to say minus 4 squared minus 1. So there's a good start. But the next thing we want to find is our a value. And to find the a value, we know that a equals 1 over 4 times p. P is the distance from the vertex to the focus. To find distance, we're going to subtract. We need to find the distance between these two. Okay? So we're going to say negative 3 over 4 minus a negative 1. We're going to add a line, change sign. We're going to end up adding. Okay? So if you need to, we're going to make this a fraction. We're going to get a common denominator. We're going to multiply the bottom times 4. We're going to multiply the top times 4. And that's going to end up being 1/4. My p value is 1/4. But we want a. And we said if our p value was a fraction, that we would come up here and we would multiply times the reciprocal. And then when you take care of it and you multiply it, we're going to find out that a equals 1. So we have a choice. We could write the number 1, or we just leave it and as an understood invisible 1 in front. And that's what we're going to do. But we have to determine if that a value is going to be a positive 1 or a negative 1. Okay? Now you can memorize if the focus is bigger or the directrix is bigger in a little bit, but I'm going to sketch a picture just to make sure in case you're a visual person. Alright, so if my vertex was negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, if this is my vertex, okay, and we know that we're either going to open up left or right, we're trying to determine, okay, we have to figure out my focus. My focus is at negative 3/4. Well, it's a little bit short of negative 1, so my focus is going to be to the right. We always open to the focus, so in this case, this is going to be positive. This should be a positive 1. You know, you don't have to write that. There is my equation. We will probably just leave it like that, because it is a positive 1. Okay? All right, let's try another one. What if they give us the vertex and the directrix? They give us the vertex, that's good. But we also said in our notes, we said that if the directrix is y equals, then my equation will be y equals. So we're going to start our answer as y equals, as y equals a x. We're going to substitute in our vertex, and it's going to put in minus 1 squared plus 5. So we're off to our start. To determine our a value, we're going to say that a equals 1 over 4 times p. P will be the distance from the vertex to the directrix. So to find this, we're going to say 5 minus 41 over 8. To do this, we need to get a common denominator. I'm going to multiply the bottom times 8, the top times 8. That's going to give me 40 over 8 minus 41 over 8. That equals a negative 1 over 8. But we're talking about distance, the distance between these two things, okay? And distance is always positive. So we're going to come over here and we're going to say, okay, distance is always positive. This is my p value. And we said if the p value is a fraction, we're going to multiply times the reciprocal. And this will give me 8 over 4, and we're going to find out that a 2. So my A value is a 2. The question is it a positive 2 or is it a negative 2? So let's go sketch real quick, okay? My vertex is at 1, 5, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know that this is y equals, so we're either going to open up or we're going to open down, okay? So we're going to find this. We find that we're going to be at 41 over 8. 41 over 8 is a little bit bigger than 5 because 5 is the same thing as 40 over 8. So my directrix is a little bit higher. So that means we're going to open away from the directrix. We're going to be a negative. We're going to open towards the negatives. So we put a negative in front of our 2. And there's my equation. Okay? All right, one more. Keep going. They give us the focus and the directrix. They do not give us the vertex. But we do know that the vertex is directly in the middle. So we've got to find the middle or the midpoint. There's a couple of ways we can do this, but let's take the easy way or the mathematical way. We're going to do midpoint kind of situation. We're going to say negative 43 plus a negative 53. We're going to add those together and divide by 2. And we're going to divide by 2. So that's going to give me a negative 96 divided by 2, which equals a negative 48. But remember now that we're just talking about the numerators. You have to include the denominator. So my vertex is going to be at negative 48 over 12. Well, what is that? Well, let's think about this. We're trying to find the vertex. It's the y spots that are changing. The x stays the same. So we're going to say we're going to be at negative 1, and we're going to reduce this. This divides out to be a negative 4. There's the location of the vertex. That's step 1. That's good. Now, if you can do this in your head, that's great. But you need to determine how far these are. How far it is from the vertex, because remember, this is the vertex. How far is it from the vertex to the directrix, or the vertex to the focus? In this case, from 48 to 53, this is going to be a distance of 5 over 12. Okay? Remember, it's always positive. Distance is positive. Okay? So we have a really good start. Let's start working our answer, or working our problem. Directrix is y equals. If the directrix is y equals, then our equation will be y equals. So we start going. We say y equals a. I don't know it yet. X, substitute in your vertex, plus 1 squared minus 4. But we need to find our a value. To find the a value, we're going to say a equals 1 over 4 times p. P is the distance. Look, we've determined the distance from the vertex to the directrix, or you could go from the vertex to the focus, but it's going to be 5 over 12. So we said if it's a fraction, we're going to multiply times the reciprocal. We're going to cross reduce. We're going to say that 4 goes into 4 one time. 4 goes into 12 3 times. We're going to say that a equals 3 over 5. So we're over here, and we're going to substitute, instead of a, we're going to write 3 over 5. Almost done. You have to determine if that is a positive or negative. Okay? So we're going to sketch real quick. Vertex is negative 1, negative 4. We know that it's y equals, so it's either going to open up or it's going to open down. Look at your directrix. It's a line segment, or it's a line, excuse me. This, I'm not sure what this means, okay? But I do know that if this was negative 48 and this is negative 53, this is smaller. This is further down. My directrix would be further down here. That means we're going to open away from the directrix and it's going to be positive. My 3/5 is positive. And so we would be done. Okay? Next situation. We're going to write a system of equations. You have to be careful. Normally, what we've done in the past, we have said that y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. But this is what happens. Y equals is what happens is if my graph opens up or down. But this one says it opens up left or right. Okay? So since it opens up left or right, we're going to have to go x equals. We're going to have to switch places with the x and the y's. So this is going to be a y squared plus by plus c. Okay? And then we start substituting in and create our system. So let's try this. In the first parentheses, this is my x, so I need to put negative 36 equals, I square the y value, and that's going to give me 9a. And then we're going to go, we have to use the same, and we're going to go 3 times b is going to give me a 3b plus c. We don't mess with the c value. Now we go to the second parentheses. My x is a negative 12. I square my y value and I get 81a plus 9 times b is going to give me a 9b plus c. In the last parentheses, I've got negative 12 as my x again. We square the 5 and we get 25a. And then we go 5 times b is 5b plus c. Now we don't put it in the calculator as ABC. We change it to x, y, z. So what I would ask you to do is come in here with these a's and your b's and your c's here. I would ask you to change these to x, y, z. And this is what we would put into our calculator. Now we've done these before. You'd go to your calculator and we would substitute these equations in. Okay? I'm trying to speed this up. Okay? So you put these in, you have to change it to a linear system. Make sure you have three equations, x, y, z. This turns out to be your a value. This is your b value. This is your c value. So when you write this, you would say that x equals negative 2y squared plus 28y minus 102. That's how you would write your answer in standard form. Okay? All right, let's keep going. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to write the equation if we're given a graph. Now remember, what do we have to have? We need to determine what? The vertex, the a value, and whether it's positive or negative. Well, obviously this opens up to the left, so this is going to be negative. It opens up to the left, so it's got to be x equals. We're just going to have to find the a value. All right, so we're going to say it's going to be x equals. We're going to come over here and we're going to find our vertex. Our vertex is going to be at 5, 4. There's our vertex. So we start writing a parentheses y minus 4 squared plus 5. The easy way to do this, and we've already done a problem when we started writing equations, is you find a point that is on the graph. In this case, the point that we're going to pick, all right, so the point that we're going to pick is going to be at x is 1, y is 0. So we're going to pick this point at 1, 0. There's your x, there's your y. Substitute those in, and we'll find our a value. So 1 equals a. Your y value is 0 minus 4 squared plus 5. Move the 5 to the other side. Minus 5 minus 5. Negative 4 equals negative 4 squared. Negative 4 squared is 16. Divide by 16. Divide by 16. This is going to give you a negative 1/4. Your a value is a negative 1/4, which makes sense because it opens up left. We're good. All right, now, time to go to circles. We're going to find the center and the radius. To find the center and the radius, we need to complete the square. So we're going to go x squared plus 8x plus blank, y squared minus 8y plus blank equals, we're going to move the 24, that's going to be minus 24 plus blank plus blank. I have 2 blanks on the left, I have to have 2 blanks on the right. Okay? We're going to say half of a positive 8 is a positive 4. We square the 4 and put 16 here, and a 16 here. Plus, parentheses, half of a negative 8 is a negative 4 squared. When you square the negative 4, you get 16, and you get 16 equals. When we put this all together, we're looking at 24 minus 32, plus 32, which is, is a positive 8. So we need to find our center and our radius. In this case, my center will be, all you have to do is take the opposite. You're looking at a negative 4, comma 4. There's the center. This is radius squared. I need radius. I need to take the square root of 8. And the square root of 8 is going to be for my radius 2 square roots of 2. Okay? Now that's kind of a tough thing to sketch on your graph, so we're going to guesstimate. But our center is going to be at negative 4, positive 4. Negative 4, positive 4. The square root of 8 is just a little bit less than the square root of 9. And we know that the square root of 9 is 3. So you're going to be just a little bit short of 3. Just a little bit short of 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And you just do the best you can to connect your dots. Not the prettiest circle. Okay? Almost done. Keep going. All right, we're going to write the equation of the circle. Okay? To write the equation, remember, we need to find the center and we need to have the radius so we can square it. Okay? I know the center, but they give me a point on the circle. Think about this. If they give me a center and they give me a point that is on the circle, so what we're looking for, if I find that distance, I have found the radius, or the length of the radius. So I'm going to need the distance formula to find my radius. Okay? So real quick, let's do a little bit of distance formula. Let's say 13 minus 12. Let's say negative 10 minus negative 11. the square root. 13 minus 12 is 1. 1 squared is 1. Add a line, change the sign. Negative 10 plus 11 is 1. 1 squared is 1. I'm looking at the square root of 2. This is my radius. From the center to the edge of the circle is the square root of 2. So we're almost done. Let's start substituting some things in. The center, we're going to say x minus 12 parentheses squared plus y plus 11 parentheses squared equals, I need the radius squared. This is the radius. To square it, I multiply it times itself, and the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 equals 2. And there's my equation for my circle. Okay? Keep going. Center, radius. All right, this is pretty good. It's very similar to what we just did, so this should be crazy easy. All right, so the center is going to be x minus 10 squared plus y plus 10 squared. And when I multiply that times itself, it's going to just drop out as 37. There's your equation. Don't you wish every single question on the test was this easy? Okay. All right, so we need to find the length of the radius. Okay? I'm going to give you the endpoints of the diameter. Think about what I'm giving you. Okay? I'm going to give you the endpoints of the diameter. You need to find the length of the radius. So if we're doing this, if this is the center, and I'm asking you to do this, it's just like it was on the quiz. You're going to find the length of the diameter, and then you're going to divide it by 2. That's it, because the radius is half of that. So let's do a little bit of distance, and then divide it by 2. So here's the endpoints of the diameter, okay? So we're going to say negative 1 minus negative 13 squared plus 7 minus negative 11 squared. We're going to take the square root, add those together. Negative 1 plus 13 is 12. 12 squared is 144. This is going to be, add a line, this is going to be 7 plus 11 is 18. Squared. Okay, I'm past B, so I have to go to my calculator. I don't know. Let's go. 18 squared, enter. 324, okay? So we're back here, and this is going to be 324. I'm going to add those together. 324 plus 144, enter. That gives me 468, but we want to take the square root, okay? Because it's got to take the square root. Control square root of 468. Enter. I get 21.6. 21.6. Let's think about this. We found out we took the square root of 468, and we found out that this distance, the total distance, was 21.6333333. It was repeating, okay? But we want the length of the radius, which would be half of that. So I need to divide that by 2. So go back to your calculator, and we're going to say divided by 2, enter. And this is going to give me 10.81. 10.81, they're going to ask you to round this to the nearest tenth, so you would tell me 10.8 is the length of the radius, okay? Do I have anything else for you? That's it. I know it took up some of your time, but hopefully I gave you, I know I gave you almost one single problem or example of everything that's on the test, all right? Hey, please work your review sheet, ask questions. If you don't practice, you're gonna struggle to try to finish the test. You need to be comfortable and you need to finish, okay? Good luck.